When my husband demanded a divorce after 15 years of marriage, I didn't fight. I simply signed the papers and let him celebrate his so-called freedom. That night he took his mistress to our favorite restaurant, the one where we had celebrated anniversaries, birthdays, and countless milestones. I approached their table with a calm smile. "Congratulations on your freedom," I said, sliding an envelope across to him. His smirk faded the moment he opened it. Inside was a DNA test result, one that proved the truth he never saw coming. Bright red lipstick on crisp white cotton. That was the beginning of the end of my marriage. Not with a dramatic confrontation, not with screams or shattered glass, but with a quiet moment of horror. I remember it perfectly. Tuesday, 9:17 a.m. The twins were at school. Olivia was at her piano lesson. I had been gathering laundry for dry cleaning when I noticed Eric's gym bag tucked behind his polished leather shoes in our walk-in closet. The zipper was slightly open, revealing a crumpled dress shirt, the same one he had supposedly worn to an emergency surgery the night before. But the stain on the collar wasn't from a hospital. No surgeon wore that shade of crimson lipstick in an operating room. Before we continue with my shocking discovery, I want to invite you to be part of our storytelling community. If tales of strength in the face of betrayal resonate with you, please hit subscribe. It's completely free and helps support more stories of resilience and empowerment. For 15 years I had been married to Dr. Eric Bennett, a respected cardiac surgeon, devoted father. At least that's what I believed. We had built what looked like the perfect life together. His colleagues called us the Bennetts, a model couple. Him the skilled surgeon who saved lives. Me the supportive wife who kept everything running smoothly at home. Our colonial-style house in Willow Heights, with its manicured lawn and white picket fence, was the picture of the American dream. At fundraisers, Eric would place a hand on my waist and say, "I couldn't do what I do without Rachel." The other doctors' wives would smile politely, some with envy in their eyes. We had it all. 3 wonderful children, financial security, and a relationship that had survived the grueling years of medical school and residency. Or so I thought. Looking back, the warning signs had always been there. Eric started working later, claiming the hospital was understaffed. Weekend golf trips became more frequent. Conversations grew shorter, limited to the logistics of school schedules and household responsibilities. When he was promoted to chief of cardiac surgery last spring, I threw him a surprise party. He smiled and thanked me in front of his colleagues, but later that night he complained that I had embarrassed him in front of the hospital board. He slept in the guest room, claiming exhaustion. I was determined to keep our marriage strong. I planned date nights, bought new lingerie, did everything the advice columns suggested. But Eric was always distracted, always too tired. One evening, after he barely touched his favorite meal, I finally asked, "Is everything okay between us?" He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I'm just exhausted, Rachel. The Jensen case is complicated." Then he retreated to his office, locking the door behind him. I never checked his phone. I believed in trust. I believed in privacy. Until our 15th anniversary approached. I had planned a surprise weekend trip to Napa Valley, where we had honeymooned. His phone was on the counter while he was in the shower. I just needed to check his schedule, just a quick peek. A message popped up. "Dr. Emily Harrison. Last night was amazing. I can't wait to feel you inside me again. When are you leaving her?" My hands trembled as I opened the message thread. Hundreds of texts. 8 months of secret rendezvous. Eric. She's planning some big anniversary surprise. Emily, poor thing. Still thinks there's something to celebrate? I quietly placed the phone back, made his coffee, kissed him goodbye as usual. Then I went to the bathroom and vomited until my stomach was empty. That night, after the children were asleep, I confronted him. "Are you sleeping with Emily Harrison?" My voice was eerily steady. He didn't flinch. He took off his watch, placed it on the nightstand, and said, "Yes." "How long?" "Does it matter?" His voice was devoid of remorse. "I want a divorce, Rachel." It wasn't a confession. It was an execution. Eric moved out the next morning, leaving a business card for his lawyer on the kitchen counter. But what I didn't know then was that his affair was just the beginning of his deception. When I met with my attorney, she advised me to go through our finances carefully. That's when I discovered nearly $250,000 had disappeared from our joint accounts over 2 years, funneled into a mysterious company called Riverside Holdings. My attorney traced it to a fertility clinic scandal, one that involved Eric directly. I reached out to Dr. Nathan Brooks, a former colleague of Eric's who had abruptly left the medical center years ago. When I mentioned Eric's name, his voice was grim. "I've been expecting your call for years." He revealed something I never could have imagined. The clinic where Eric and I had undergone IVF had been manipulating embryos, falsifying results, and substituting genetic material, and Eric had been complicit. I felt the world tilt beneath me. "We went through 5 rounds of IVF," I whispered. "Eric wanted children." Dr. Brooks slid a thumb drive across the table. "He wanted healthy children. He has a hereditary heart condition. A 50% chance of passing it on. He made sure his DNA was never used. My children, the twins Olivia, weren't biologically his. The betrayal was beyond anything I had imagined. For 15 years I had lived a lie. I ordered genetic testing. 2 agonizing weeks later the results arrived. Probability of paternity, 0%. I printed 3 copies. One for my lawyer, one for my safety deposit box, and one that I slipped into an envelope. That evening at the restaurant where Eric and his mistress celebrated, I approached their table and slid the envelope to him. His smirk disappeared the moment he saw the DNA results. His mistress, Emily, frowned. "What is it?" Eric's face turned ashen. His hands trembled. He couldn't speak. I leaned in, my voice soft but firm. "Congratulations on your freedom, Eric. But it looks like you were never a father after all." And with that I walked away, leaving him to drown in the truth of his own betrayal. It all started methodically. I reached out to other families who had undergone fertility treatments at Ashford during Eric's tenure. Dr. Brooks gave me a list of 27 couples who might have been affected. Most of them refused to speak with me. They were unwilling to question the origins of their beloved children. 5 couples, however, agreed to meet. The Millers had twins who looked nothing like them, a puzzling issue that they had never questioned. The Patels had a daughter with unexpected medical complications. The Johnsons, Garcias, and Wilsons each had stories of miraculous conceptions, all occurring after several failed attempts. It wasn't until Dr. Mercer personally took an interest in their cases that the success rates changed. "We were just so grateful," Sarah Wilson said to me, tears streaming down her face. "We never questioned how." My search eventually led me to Diane Fletcher, a former nurse who had worked at the fertility clinic for over 12 years. We met at her modest apartment, tucked outside the city, where she lived surrounded by filing cabinets. "I kept records of everything," she explained, her hands trembling slightly as she pulled out a leather-bound journal. "Patient names, procedural modifications, signatures authorizing changes. I thought I destroyed it all when I left," she continued. "Why didn't you report it?" I asked. Diane's smile was bitter. "I tried. The hospital administration, the medical ethics board, even the police. Each time the investigation disappeared. Your husband has powerful friends, Mrs. Carter." She showed me pages from her journal, entries dating back 8 years. Each page was meticulous. Documentation of specimen substitutions, falsified consent forms, and procedural irregularities. Eric's signature appeared repeatedly, authorizing protocol adjustments in cases with genetic concerns. "And my case?" I asked her quietly. "My case?" Diane flipped to a page marked with my name. The dates matched our IVF procedures. Special instruction from Dr. Carter himself. Specimen replacement authorized due to quality concerns. No donor identification recorded. I photographed every page, every signature, every damning note. As I was leaving, Diane pressed a business card into my hand. Medical Ethics Investigation Unit. Ask for Agent Dawson. Tell him I sent you. Michael Dawson worked for a joint task force investigating healthcare fraud. He had been building a case against Ashford for 18 months, but couldn't break through the wall of silence surrounding the fertility clinic. Your evidence could be the key, he told me during our first meeting. But we need more. Financial records showing kickbacks, recorded admissions of guilt, and testimony from someone currently inside. I committed myself to gathering what he needed while maintaining the facade of a woman reluctantly accepting divorce. I smiled sadly at Eric during mediation sessions, agreed to temporary custody arrangements, and pretended to consider his insulting financial settlement. You're being surprisingly reasonable, Eric remarked after one particularly tense meeting with our lawyers. The children come first, I replied softly, keeping my tone neutral. I just want what's best for everyone. His confidence grew with each concession I appeared to make. He brought Emily to school functions, introduced her to our friends, even had her stay overnight when the children visited his new downtown apartment. All the while, I quietly recorded conversations, photographed documents, and built my case. The investigation took an unexpected turn when I hired a private investigator to look into Emily's background. The report revealed something shocking. Emily wasn't just Eric's colleague and lover. She was Melanie Harrington's daughter. Melanie Harrington had been a patient of Eric's 5 years ago. A routine valve replacement ended in tragedy when Eric allegedly made a mistake during the procedure. The hospital investigation cleared him of wrongdoing, citing that Melanie had failed to disclose a medication that complicated her surgery. But the truth, buried deep in records Agent Dawson uncovered, told a different story. Eric had been operating on minimal sleep after spending the weekend with Emily in Chicago. His error was covered up, records falsified, and the family was paid off with Ashford funds. Melanie's husband died a year later from stress-induced heart failure, leaving Emily alone. She changed her last name, erased all connections to her past, and worked her way into Eric's life. First as a colleague, then as his mistress. Her revenge had been years in the making, just like mine. I debated confronting her, maybe even suggesting we work together, but ultimately decided against it. Emily's motivations were emotional and volatile. Mine had to be calculated, precise. Over the following month, I gathered testimonies from former clinic employees, documented the money trail from Ashford to Riverside Holdings and offshore accounts, and secured sworn statements from patients whose treatments had been compromised. Agent Dawson built the legal case while I constructed something more personal: the complete dismantling of Eric Carter's carefully crafted image. One day, during a co-parenting discussion, I subtly steered the conversation toward the fertility treatments. The twins have your eyes, I mentioned casually. Good genes, he replied distractedly, scrolling through his phone. Do you ever wonder if they inherited your heart condition? I asked. His head snapped up. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, I added, watching his reaction. Dr. Brooks had mentioned it to me. Eric's face darkened. Brooks should keep his mouth shut about things that don't concern him. Don't our children's health concerns concern him? Concern me, I pressed. There's nothing to worry about, he dismissed. I had them tested years ago. They're fine. How could you test them without telling me? I asked. I'm their father and a doctor. I made a medical decision. The recording captured every word. His admission of testing our children without my knowledge. His continued pretense of biological connection. It was the final piece Agent Dawson needed. The tension was at its peak. Every step I took toward my revenge seemed heavier, more laden with an emotional weight I never thought I could bear. Eric was about to find out that the game he started, manipulating so many lives, was going to end very differently than he imagined. The meeting with the lawyer was scheduled. I had already gathered all the necessary evidence: And with Dawson's help, the investigation was ready to go to court. The feeling of justice was finally within reach. But still, there was something inside me wondering if, in the end, he would understand what he had truly lost. Not just what he did to destroy the life we built, but what he had truly done with the trust and hearts of the people around him. That morning, as he prepared for the meeting, I decided not to say anything. No more empty words, no more false concessions. Silence was my best response. When we met, the tension was palpable. He was visibly nervous, as if he sensed something was about to happen, but had no idea what exactly. "You're going too far, Rachel," he began, trying to maintain composure. "There's nothing wrong with what we did. I always did what was best for everyone." I looked at him with no emotion. "The best for everyone, Eric? You used victims' money and manipulated lives with a smile on your face. You destroyed families and hid behind your own ego. I know what you did." He paled. The air of superiority he always had vanished, replaced by a look of surprise and fear. He tried to hold on to his posture, but he knew he could no longer hide the truth. "I can't let you do this," he whispered, trying to step closer. "You've already done enough, Eric," I replied, handing him the final piece of evidence. A copy of the DNA report with all the details of the fertility treatment manipulations. "This is the last page of our story. The difference is you're not in control this time." He took the document, read the words, and the color drained from his face. The words he had always used to justify his actions were now empty, powerless. "You can't do this," he repeated, his voice failing. "I already have," I said firmly. "Now you'll have to face the consequences of what you've done. Not just in court, but with the people you've used along the way." At that moment, there was no doubt about what he would lose. I knew he would never be the man he thought he was. His ego, the pride he had built on lies and manipulations, was about to collapse in front of everyone he had deceived. In a month, Eric was removed from his position at the hospital, charged with medical fraud, and the evidence of his genetic manipulations was brought to the public, shaking Ashford's reputation and leading to a criminal investigation. Meanwhile, I moved forward with my children, my true allies, and a life now being rebuilt. Nothing could erase the damage Eric caused, but at least now things were being done the right way. The day of sentencing arrived. Eric was convicted and his reputation destroyed. But the greatest victory wasn't legal justice. It was the emotional freedom I had gained by finally exposing him, the truth that I could move on without carrying the weight of the lies he created. I learned that even when everything seems lost, there's always a way to start over. The truth, in the end, always finds a way to come to light. And as things were resolved in court, I returned my focus to what truly mattered. My children, the truth that now freed them from a past of deceit, and the chance to build a new life free from shadows. Revenge didn't bring me happiness, but the peace and justice that followed were the greatest rewards I could have wished for. Answer me here in the comments, what would you have done in my place? Subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more dark family stories.